Today is the 26th, I think. I think today is the 26th of October. It's Sunday. Beautiful day outside. And I was guided to map out for myself and for others to be able to share this what living in balance means to me. So I did a little journal prompt that I can look to help cultivate and solidify this point that I would like to share. So little backstory about me, chose and set the intention to live in balance and to figure out what that even means, what that looks like, what that feels like, and how that shows up in my life. I set that for myself probably 3 years ago, so it's been a decent process, and I'm at a point where I have strongly set a foundation of how I like to live in balance. And obviously, you are ever changing, growing, and expanding, especially me. I change multiple times a day, every day. Like, I'm constantly evolving. And for me, that's the point. We're humans, we're meant to grow and evolve. And so when you are taking on living in balance, you have to realize that that is a key factor, that even the way you balance throughout your life is going to be ever changing, growing, and expanding. To me, balance is a very fluid thing. And there's a lot of things that you can choose to balance. So many variables and facets to it. So to give a few examples before I get into the list is there's your feminine side and your masculine side, balancing those out. There's your internal world and your external world, balancing those out. There is your personal life and your professional life, balancing those out. And ego with soul, balancing those out. I had another example, but it just like flew past my head. Whatever. Okay. You get what I mean. There's a lot of facets to explore. Oh, your mind and your heart. That is the biggest one. That's the one. Thank you for coming back to me, thought. That's the biggest one that I have worked on. Obviously, I have spent so much practice and time and energy balancing literally everything to exist in my life. But the heart and mind naturally are different things. As we know, the way we think is very different than the way we innately feel and love. And so I felt such a strong disconnect when I started my journey of balance with my heart and with my mind. A lot of old programmings, a lot of old fear, insecurity, doubt, a lot of beliefs from other people of how I should live my life, just like so much going around in my head. And the thing about the mind is that I could explain this better, but I'm just going to preface that I for sure could explain the mind better, but it's basically a channel and a receptor to energy. So like the way I like to give this example is say you're in the same room as someone. If you are deeply in tune and open and receptive, say someone in the corner of the room is thinking about, oh, I want some pizza. But you don't want pizza, okay? You can receive that brainwave, that thought, and think, I want pizza. And then you think about it, and you're like, I don't want pizza. Like, why would I be thinking the thought of I want pizza? It literally could be someone else. Okay? It might be different because I'm a woman and I have like deep intuition, but I'm also like so tapped in the spiritual realm that I receive thoughts of other people without necessarily wanting to. So I can deeply read energy, I can deeply read people, I can receive messages and guidance of what other people are thinking and feeling, even if they never said it out loud. So that might just be a me thing. I know other people can do that. I don't know how widespread of a normalcy that is for people. But I like to give that example of the pizza of like, your thoughts are energy, and energy is constantly flowing all throughout us, around us. And so you can pick up on that frequency if you are open and receptive to it, compared to if you were like completely shut off and closed off. You're not going to receive a message like that because you're only solely focused on you, yourself, and I. You know what I mean? So my point is, the mind and the heart are at different states, different frequencies. And so to balance them, and the way I like to think of it is like literally doing a little infinity sign. If you were into meditation, sitting and imagining an infinity sign going from your head to your heart and literally intertwining and balancing them together. That's a great way to do it. I also love dancing, and I can be very hand-arm orientated while I dance, which to me is helping bring balance to the mind and heart and ground those energies down together. Okay, so that's another way to balance is mind and heart. Okay, so to get into it, living in balance. Obviously, it's the intention. You cannot expect to experience anything without choosing to set that intention and experience it. You create your reality. Simple. Biggest clarity that it is a practice that you genuinely have to devote a lot of time and energy to. You are going to be adding this as a key factor to your life, okay? And it is a long journey, a long journey. I am very good at adapting, and I have noticed and been told that I am able to grow through things and transform through things at a very fast rate that is not necessarily normal, which is cool. It's like a lot of things in my life are fast tracked, but it's because I get the big picture. I understand it. And I'm like, this is so simple and laid out and so clear to me that I'm like, why would I continue living in that way if I see this so clearly and I know I can embody that and live in it? So then I match that state, I match that frequency, basically rise and level up to a new state, and then continue on and like continue rising, continue evolving and growing. And I don't let myself get stuck in one certain way of living. And if I do, I clock it. I clock that so fast and just break free from that one limitation, if that makes sense. And so I am able to grow at a rapid pace. But I also like growing at a rapid pace because it gives me something to do, it gives me something to focus on. Which is so funny because I genuinely have so much on my plate, but I can handle it. Like, I know I can handle it. Whew. My childhood, the amount of stuff that I've gone through that I did not like want to go through, that was like very difficult, very intense, very all-consuming, I just chose to be like, I'm balancing this out. I'm balancing this out. I'm simplifying this. I'm getting clear and making this more easeful for myself because this does not have to be so difficult. It's all perception. If you're taking on this journey of balance and you're coming through with this thought and mindset of this is such a challenge, it's so difficult, like, you're just going to be making it difficult for yourself. It's all perspective. If you want it to be easeful, even if it's super fast and super intense, if you set the intention and continue to set the intention and embodiment of it being easeful, it is naturally going to be easier for you. Even if something like a big new wave of growth comes forward in this balance journey and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle it, like this is so much, you're doubting yourself, you're having some fears, you're living in some insecurities, the biggest thing is clocking it and then hyping yourself back up and realizing, wait, I can handle this. Like, I'm not going to let the fear overpower me. Like, I am very powerful. I'm very capable. And I can easily do this. And so I do. Okay. So it's a long journey. It's a continued practice that you choose to do on a daily basis. Obviously, there can be days where you're living in strong intention and inspired action, and the other days you just let yourself free, let yourself go, let yourself just be you, not think about balance, not doing any of that. And that's what I realized. Okay, so throughout my experience with it, I am a type of person that gets super hyper analytical, and I can be very mind consumed. I'm an Aries, I'm a Ram, I'm very head oriented, very head oriented. And so sometimes I can get stuck within my mind, and that can limit me sometimes because I get over consumed with the thought process of things and not living as much in the embodiment. And I noticed and learned that about myself. And so the way I moved forward, I tried to adapt and tweak it a bit. So some days you can live so strongly in the intention, have such deep presence with all of the balance that you are choosing to do. If it's meditative practices, embodiment practices, visualization, setting the intention, journaling, writing, speaking out loud to yourself, there's so many things that you can do. And you can live so strongly in cultivating that for yourself, being so connected and in tune to what you are doing. And then other times you can let go of all of it, completely detach, and you're like, I want to see how balance naturally flows through me. I've been doing this work, I've been putting in this time, I've been putting in this energy, and I want to see how it turns out when I just let myself live, when I just let myself be free. And I want to see how balanced I naturally truly am, especially now that I have so much awareness to the concept of balance. And so that is also a thing. And I feel like that also relates to literally anything you practice in life. And I could give that example for being confident as well. If you are trying to become more of a confident person, there are going to be days where you strongly set the intention, strongly practice it, strongly try and solidify that for yourself in your life. And then there are going to be other times where you completely let go and you're like, let's just see how confident I am naturally. Let's see. And that is really important to balance both aspects of those throughout the balance journey. Okay. Next point is in balance, I feel it as more a spiritual journey. I feel like people don't necessarily choose to live a journey of balance if you aren't already on a journey of deep self-discovery and or deep connection to a higher power. So for me, there's so many higher powers to connect to. So just to list them off, I have my higher self, okay? I have my angel guides, I have my spirit guides, I have my animal guides. I have my ancestors. They're the archangels. There are the gods and goddesses. There is God, creator of all. However you like to think about how God is. And there's also the universe, and then there's the earth, and then you get into like more nitpicky of all of those, of earth spirits, air spirits, fire spirits, water spirits. Okay, there's so many spirits and higher powers to connect to, and it's really what you feel is right for you. And so my point with this one is openness and willingness to submit to those higher powers and let them channel through you. You're just a vessel, you're just a channel in this human body. And be receptive and adaptable to what those spirits bring forward, those energies, those powers bring forward through you. Okay? Obviously, set the intention of whoever and whatever you are connected to being for your highest and greatest good, the highest benefit of you and your evolution as a human being. And asking that it is a positive energy, a benevolent energy, a loving energy. So a high vibrational energy, so that you're not connecting to something that doesn't benefit you. Intention is everything on that. And something that I learned through becoming a Reiki practitioner, so I'm Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 certified, is a very clear line between what it is living through ego and living through soul. Living through ego is not necessarily a bad thing. And I feel like when I was starting my spiritual journey, it was influenced to me that it was a more negative connotation, and it is not meant to be. We are always going to have an ego. We are human in this life. Okay? The key is getting right with your ego. Your ego can overpower you and outweigh you and consume your way of living, and then you can feel out of control, out of place, lost, confused, and life can feel a little more challenging. But if you take the time to, the way I like to think about it is like purify your ego. Purify it, simplify it, create it to be a safe place where your ego is your friend. Then when you're balancing ego to soul, it's not going to be as hard of a switch to detach from the ego because it's through love. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I for sure could explain that concept in deeper accuracy, but for the sake of me staying on the theme of balance, I'm just going to sprinkle that one. So, releasing the ego. Stop thinking so much. It is so easy to think. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts every single day. Your thoughts are always going to be there. But you living in deep embodiment of your soul is something you truly have to practice and cultivate. Okay? Especially in the world we live in. I would say when you're younger and you're a kid and you're not as tainted by the world, I don't know if that's the right word, not as shaped and defined by the world, not as versed in human experience, guess is how I'll put it. I think it is an innate thing to live through your soul, but also as you mature and you become an adult, the way you embody and live in your soul is completely different than the way you did when you were a kid. And obviously you can connect to those inner child modalities, not modalities, like aspects of how you did that when you were a kid, but the way you do it when you're adult is so much more expanded in my perspective because you're maturing and your brain is more developed, your consciousness is more developed. You get what I mean? So, releasing ego, stop thinking so much, living in the embodiment of your soul. Biggest thing, releasing control, letting everything flow. And I feel like a thing about the ego, a thing about the mind is wanting control. It is something that every single person deals with and faces in their day-to-day life of releasing control. And so there was a lot of situations that I was put through where I actively surrendered. I chose to literally surrender to the flow of life, surrender to my soul, and just flow through the situation, flow through the experience. And I'm a type of person that grew up having control issues. Like, it was a big thing for me to do. when I started this journey. It is still something that I deal with, but to me, it's not as difficult or intense as it once was. And so I also asked the universe and God to help me throughout this whole journey, of course, but specifically on bringing me situations, putting me in situations where I actively had to let go of control, had to let go of an outcome, had to let go of what I wanted from the situation, and just was truly present, receptive, and adaptable to what was happening and what could happen. It's like this deep surrender to the unknown and to the present moment at the same time. So, yeah, releasing control. Realizing that life is an ever fluid experience. And just letting yourself melt into that. Okay? Biggest concept with releasing control and letting everything flow is what is meant to happen will happen and has already happened. Having deep trust and faith in that thought, in that belief, will greatly help you. When I first started to think that thought, I was very opposed to it. I was very defensive to it because I still wanted to have that control. And for me, I guess I'll give the example of why I was such a control freak growing up. How would I describe it in the simplest terms? I lived in a very strong emotional, not turbulence, sure, turbulence, why not? I had a very strong turmoil, strong inner emotional turmoil, and I wasn't necessarily positively influenced on how to regulate my emotions, nor given many opportunities from other adults that were helping raise me to be able to regulate my emotions. And so, since I was so internally, like so chaotic, like didn't know what was happening, so lost and confused, and I didn't feel secure within myself growing up, I wanted to find security in controlling things external from me. And when I realized that thought of it's only because I don't feel secure within and feel like I have control over my mind or how I feel, then it was this birth into experiencing setting more tension and practice for prioritizing my mental health, my emotional health, and really purifying and getting clear with my mind and realizing that my mind is a tool and it is here to help me. It is for me to utilize. It is not for me to live in war with. And so that was a journey of itself, but it did correlate with the overall concept of balance. And so the better I started to feel within myself, the less I naturally tried to control things outside of me. And this was like very prevalent in relationships and connections with people. I would constantly be trying to like control what was happening or control the outcome, very hyper vigilant, hyper aware, hyper analytical, very sensitive, very on edge, growing up with having a very irregulated nervous system. And so that was also me going into practice of calming my nervous system, connecting to my breath, slowing down, grounding myself into the present moment, and really just cultivating peace within was super huge with this. And so, yeah, it's going to be a journey. If you are just starting off trying to release control, it's going to be a journey. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy when you first start off. The way I see things to be is like the more you practice something, the easier it becomes, because through repetition, your mind, your nervous system, your body is more comfortable with practicing and experiencing such a thing. And so it becomes easier because it becomes more comfortable. You're more well versed in it. And so I feel like when you're at the beginning and the start of anything, it can feel intense and heavy and just feel like a lot. But having the awareness that through practice and repetition, it will become easier because you'll become more comfortable with it. It's just a great thought to have to give yourself peace of mind. Okay. Next, having self-trust and deep faith that everything you experience and go through is benefiting you in some way or another. So you can easily live life feeling as people are against you, the world is against you, the universe is against you, God is against you, but it's not very fun. I'll be very honest, not fun. To constantly be on edge and feel at war with everything and anything. And so when you realize God is always helping you, the universe is always helping you, the literal planet is always helping you, and just really embracing and embodying that everything is benefiting you and helping your evolution as a human being, if you see the clarity of it at that present moment or not. So if you understand it at that moment in time or don't understand at that moment in time, everything is still benefiting you and helping you. And I think it's really big about the intention, because as someone that grew up living in fear and living in scarcity, I was living in a state where I felt like things were against me. And so if you're constantly questioning what is happening around you and in conflict with what is happening around you and being provided for you, it's tension. There's gonna be tension. But if you are in deep trust and faith that everything is helping you and benefiting you, it's going to flow. The clarity will flow. Your thoughts will flow. The energy will flow with much more ease because you are open and receptive and you have a positive mindset towards it. Yeah. Okay. Next one is pouring love into all versions of your spell. Wow. Hang on. I need a little water. A little bit of water. Oh. Just doing that and listening to my body made me realize another point for living in balance is listening to your body. So simple. I'm gonna write it down so I remember. Listening to your body. Being clear on your needs and wants as a human being. So important. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I just like felt called to drink water, that I like needed that. My throat was getting dry. Because as I was saying at the beginning, going through this journey, it is ever evolving and ever changing, because you as a human being are ever evolving and ever changing, constant growth throughout all of it. And so it's really important to listen to your body, because throughout your journey, your body is going to be communicating different things to you every moment of the day, every day. Constantly a different communication of what your body needs and wants at that moment in time. And so I just needed water, and that helped me. And that helped balance my literal physical body out and my energy, because I was getting dry and I was getting a little like stagnant in there. So keeping it fluid, keeping it flowing. So grateful that that just happened. Okay. Going back. Pouring love into all versions of yourself, especially sides of you that you consider your darkness, shadow side, and less remarkable qualities, embracing that all of you is enough, worthy, and deserving of love, and deserving of experiencing the pleasures of life. Okay? This is like a whole nother thing. There's like every point is like its own thing that I could go on speaking about for so long, but it is a journey within itself to go into your darkness and your shadow side and balance out those areas of your life. Doing shadow work is such an important thing, and I recommend that everybody does it at their own pace. Okay? There's no rush, no pressure. Take the pressure off yourself. It's just an experience for you to go through to help yourself learn more about yourself, grow, and evolve. Okay. My biggest point with all of this is pouring love into every version of yourself. I feel as though through my own experiences, I've noticed that in the past, not necessarily now, I would only pour love into parts of myself that I thought were more redeemable, more acceptable, and likable by other people. And this had me living in a very limited scope of self-love. And I clocked that, didn't really like it, realized I wanted to change it, realized I wanted to pour love into all versions of myself. So I used to be a huge stoner, and I thought that was a less redeemable quality, especially because I would become very antisocial. I would not want to hang out with anybody. I would not want to speak to anybody. I was just isolated in my own little world of my mind. And it had its ups and downs. It had its good and bad experiences, as everything does. But I really judged myself throughout the process of being a stoner. And it was a huge thing for me to go through of self-acceptance of like, I want to do this, so I'm not going to judge myself through it. I'm not going to make myself feel like shit. Like, that's taking the fun out of all of it. But also like realizing, what's the little saying? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Uh, Give me a moment. Moderation. Consumption through moderation. I don't think that was word for word what I wanted to say, but that was my point. Consumption through moderation. And so that was like very eye-opening for me of like, wow, I can't be smoking all day, every single day. Like, I feel like it's taking away the value of my life, the longevity of my health and well-being. And so I set a lot of boundaries with myself, and I would take breaks for a while and then I would go back. That was a journey of its own, whatever. But overall, I learned to pour love into myself even when I did the action and was in that state, because that was my biggest learning lesson through my journey of experiencing that. And yeah, I think it was also just like liberating myself, letting myself feel free, unshackling myself from all of the fear, judgment, insecurity, and doubts, anxieties that I would have when I would do that. Okay? So that was like my darkness. That was my shadow side. And that was like a complete journey of its own. That did eventually bring a lot of balance back into my life. Okay? I'm not saying that I'm never gonna do it again. I'm not saying that, I'm not like outcasting it of like, I can't ever do it again. If I genuinely felt called to do it, I will. I'm an adult. It's legal. Like I can do that. But I'm also very clear with myself that I want to be living a very healthy lifestyle, and my health is my top priority. And I just don't think it benefits my lungs, my sinuses, my digestion, my skin, my mental space, my emotional space. Like in a sense, it kind of like numbed me out and I wasn't as emotional. And then when I stopped and took a break, I had like this wave of like very intense deep emotions, and I cried a lot, and it was like so much more to work through compared to if I'm just like sober every single day. Like I'm just flowing through life. It's so much easier to balance and surrender and to live harmoniously in the way that I desire. So just like for how I want my life to be, it wasn't benefiting me anymore. But with love, I detached from it. Yeah. Okay. That's my point with that one. Next is devotion over discipline. Being devoted to your journey, seeing the bigger picture, while living in that way, discipline will naturally flow through your life. I think people that only focus on discipline are limiting themselves and tend to be too rigid and hard on their inner child. Like that is just so simple to me through everything that I've experienced and gone through. That is a simple laid out thought then for me. And my thought process on that might change. Most likely will change throughout my life, but right now that's what I think. And I live a life of devotion to my higher purpose, my higher power, to my soul, and pouring love into myself. And I take my inner child as top priority. Like making sure she feels safe and comfortable and able to express herself and live freely and be silly, goofy, and play and celebrate is very big for me. So that's another thing you can balance out, the adult side of you and the inner child side of you, because it is very important to continue living through your inner child and making yourself happy. We're all just little kids that have grown into adult bodies, and our minds have just gotten smarter and wiser. But that inner child is still inside all of us, and it is very important to nurture that aspect of ourselves because it's never going to go away. Okay? Okay. And so I feel like, at least for me, just solely focusing on the path of discipline, it was just too much on my body and my mind, and it felt too much on my inner child. Especially as a woman going through like luteal, ovulation, follicular, menstruation, and like constantly on that cycle, my body is constantly changing. And what my body is telling me at that like different points in time throughout that hormonal cycle journey alters all the time. So like when I'm in my luteal phase, like I can be so disciplined. I could be going to the gym all the time. I'm eating really, really good. Like, well, I've gotten really better about just like eating good in general, eating cleaner and healthier, but my discipline is much stronger when my energy is up. But if I'm in my follicular phase or menstruation, I really don't have as much energy. And then I'm going to be more devoted to nurturing myself and pouring love into myself, really slowing down and relaxing. Most likely, I'm going to be journaling more, painting more, writing more, singing more, maybe watching some movies, reading a book, like hanging out in nature, just like really vibing out and not putting a lot of pressure on myself. But when I'm in my luteal or ovulation phase, I can put more pressure on myself and have much stronger discipline because my energy levels and my body can handle it. And I've learned that about myself. For guys, it is very different because their hormonal cycle of testosterone is reset on a 24-hour basis. So every day they get this new wave of testosterone and they are chilling. So for guys, it is much easier to discipline themselves on a daily basis, workout on a daily basis, and do like a hardcore workout at that. And also balance in going to work, having a social life, doing other hobbies that they like, while also like going to the gym. Like, it's their energy levels make it easier for them to balance all of that out. And also the masculine body doesn't need as much sleep as a female body. It's literally like scientifically proven. So devotion over discipline, at least for me being a woman. And then my last point is connection of mind, body, and spirit, investing time to connect deeper in each state. With more practice, you will naturally flow throughout all of them. So that's another facet to balance out is mind, body, spirit. And I feel like living in the mind is easy. Living in the body can be a little more challenging to just like deeply ground. That's like where meditation comes in, or meditative practices like a meditative walk, meditative dancing, going in the sauna. You can either do for like showers or baths too, for an embodiment practice. Embodiment practices to connect as deeply as you can into your vessel is very important. And so like even when I'm going to bed at night, it is my intention to slow my mind down and to connect into my body as deeply as possible. As someone who is Reiki certified, I give Reiki to myself. And that really helps slow my mind because I'm focused on the Reiki, I'm focused on the energy being channeled through me. And Reiki naturally regulates your nervous system, calms your nervous system, so your body can heal at its full optimal ability. And that's just like a benefit to me. I would say you can do energy work without being Reiki certified. You can also do Reiki without being Reiki certified. And so it's really all on setting that intention. I feel like I am just such a person that my brain moves so fast, especially if I'm just thinking thoughts internally in my head and like laying down at night. So many thoughts racing through my head. So it's like a genuine practice for me to slow my mind down, regulate myself, and really calm my mind down, which in turn calms my body down. And then living in spirit, honestly, I'm going to touch on this one a little bit because I feel like that will be a question posed of like, well, how do you live in your soul? How do you embody your soul? How do you live in spirit? Like, what does that mean? Personally, I think it means something different to everybody, but I will give examples of what it means to me to give you an idea. So, when I started my spiritual journey, I had this moment. This is a crazy story, and I actually have only told a handful of people, so feel lucky that you get to know this. But there was this time where I had been in the bathroom, sitting in the sink, staring at myself in the mirror, just like staring into my own eyes. And I started to speak this language that I didn't know. Okay? Call me crazy, call me whatever the frick you want, I don't care. I started to speak this language that I didn't know, which then I later discovered after 3 years of experiencing it now, is that that's just a connection to my soul. And it gets channeled a lot when I do Reiki as well. So it's just this like, you can call it light language, you can call it soul language. It could also be my connection to my past lives of like living in Lumeria. Like, I'm such an ancient soul. It could also be connection to gods and goddesses, literally deities and entities and spirits that lived in a very different time than I'm living right now, I'm very open. You know, I don't necessarily need to define it for myself. I know it is a positive thing and it only benefits me. And I've had like a lot of visions and dreams and insights and clarity and channeled messages and guided messages about it. And I know it's a positive thing. And if anything, it kind of sounds like Gaelic mixed with like 3 other languages. If that helps like give, you know what, I'll do it for you guys. I'll do it for you guys. I did it once when I held a meditation class, and everyone was so receptive and they really loved it, and they said it helped them feel so grounded and just like at peace, and it was just it was so nice to hear. So what would I want to share with you guys? And also, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know the translation, so to speak. I can be speaking it and think in my head like ground, balance, love, and like little human words. And then that will translate to what I am saying. I just catch the vibe of that. And I used to journal it out all the time, like pages on pages on pages, trying to like figure out what I was saying. And there's like sometimes like repetitive words that I'll use over and over again. And I like could figure out like a little bit of like what it would mean. And I would try and decode it and like figure it out. But then I was like, you know what? I don't think it's necessarily like meant to be decoded. Like I don't need to. You know what I mean? Anyway. Okay. Oh, it makes me nervous, but whatever. What, for the people that are gonna watch this video, I choose to speak something that will benefit them and their highest and greatest good. Okay. Dishtakor yamashaniete stokayatse yamashotia aryatse yane koya. Alapoya shoti yane pa kariati shiatamutietse. Ika tiempo diashtato diaraziantaka. Okay. Whatever. I'm freeing myself. I'm liberating myself. I'm expressing myself in ways that people haven't necessarily experienced me expressing myself before. But this is me. This is real. I'm exactly who I want to be. So, anyway, if you felt anything from that, let me know. But yeah, I really have like, it changes a lot, the tongue of how I do it. So like if I'm angry and sassy, I'll be like, like I'll be like more aggressive. And then if I'm like calmer, I'll be like more it's like a dance. It's like my voice is literally pure medicine and magic, and I'm just blessing myself. So yeah. Anyway, that's my little in-depth explanation of balance and how I live in balance. I hope that gives you clarity and helps connect a puzzle piece for you, helps you set more intention, live more intentionally with deeper presence and awareness. Yeah. Feel free to comment anything that you thought about while watching this, any opinion that you have, something that you think is prevalent to this concept. I feel like there's so much more I could have said, but this is literally at like 50 minutes now, and that's a long freaking video. So thanks for tuning in. So much love to you, and I hope you have such a beautiful day. And I wish you well with your journey of balance. Peace.